Greetings, friends. Welcome back to the October. Greetings, friends. Welcome back to the Film Alchemist podcast. I'm your host, Griffey, here with a brief introduction before today's amazing installment of the October Mega Marathon. That's right, 31 days, 31 pods. Today we're joined by a very special friend, DeVaughn Taylor, for an amazing talk about the film Dark Harvest. But before that, a little bit of business. Everyone, 31 days, 31 pods is the case. If you want all three, you need to go over to patreon.com/filmalchemistpod. Not only is it the greatest way to support the show, which means the world to us, it's also the way to ensure you get the 3 extra episodes to complete the October Mega Marathon. Why would you want 28 when yous can have 31? We have a house commentary over there and Patreon exclusive episodes on Bordello of Blood. You can also find our Tales from the Crypt miniseries, which is super fun over there, and the movie Kill List, which is incredible. So again, this time of year, it means the world to us to have all of your support. We work very hard to make this October Mega Marathon happen. This is the best way to show some support. Make sure you're subscribing to the YouTube. That's Film Alchemist. We're on all the socials you're on, including TikTok. We appreciate those shares and all that metric support over there. You can email the show, filmalchemistpod@gmail.com. Another thing you can do to help the show, make sure you're leaving a 5-star rating and review. That also helps us out a ton. Make sure you go to misfitparade.net so you can see the movies that we're making. Our short film Sugar Tits is playing around the country. So go over there, make sure you subscribe so you can keep up with all of that. Oh, right. You guys ain't here for business, you here for pods. Today we're joined by our returning friend, DeVaughn Taylor. He's been on the show multiple times. In fact, I've been on his show, Spectre Cinema Club. It is an amazing podcast that you guys are going to love, right? So please go over there and check out DeVaughn's work. He's a very interesting guy. He's a really wonderful friend. Very insightful, right? I love the way he watches movies, and I love the information and the way he makes me look at movies differently. So just super fun, interesting guy. He always picks great movies, and Dark Harvest is no exception. So if you'd be so kind, make sure you go find DeVaughn's work. I'll have all of that in the show notes down below. Again, that's Spectre Cinema Podcast. You're going to love that. So go over there, check it out, and help out this wonderful guy. We thank him from the bottom of our hearts for making some time to join us for the October Mega Marathon. So without further ado, Dark Harvest with DeVaughn Taylor. Everybody, welcome back to the show. Our friend and returning champion, DeVaughn Taylor, welcome back. Would you care to tell the people where they can find all your stuff and the movie you selected for the October Mega Marathon this year?
Hello. I am back for my turkey of Halloween Mega Marathon.
Is this number 3?
Yeah. This is my third one, and then just had you on over on my podcast, Spectre Cinema Club, where we break down horror movies via subgenre. Griffey came on during our Set in LA horror month, and we talked They Live, which was a very fun episode. Because it's simultaneously like one of the goofiest episodes we've ever done, but like also very serious. Like talking about we talked some like heavy stuff on top of being like very goofy. So that's a very fun episode to like actually like dive in on if you've never heard our podcast before.
Fucking love your pod. Garrett's wonderful. Your co-host. You have a great setup over there. It was a super fun thing to join. So yeah, go check out Spectre Cinema Club, guys.
Please do.
So what's the movie you chose? Because last year we did The Corpse Bride. The first year, I remember now, is The Prestige.
Mm-hmm.
So you're on a heater right now, and you picked another movie I love that I feel is criminally underappreciated by a director I also think is criminally underappreciated. So would you like to introduce the movie?
Yeah, I always try to put some sort of curve on my choice. Like The Prestige wasn't exactly what people think of when they think spooky season, but I think we made it for a nice conversation. Then we did some animated fun last year. Now we are in full spooky season ripper mode, and I want to bring one that is very underseen. It's very recent. It came out last October, which is Dark Harvest by director David Slade.
Yes, I mean, I saw this when it first came out and it kind of like floated away from me. So I remember I was like, oh, I thought that was all right. Dude, this movie fucking bangs.
It is.
From the opening. This movie just starts with the like, here's some corn. Like, uh-oh, it's Halloween. You know what that means. And what that means is a kid in a mask pissing his pants. A giant, like, Jack Skellington kind of, but not cute. And then that kid's body on fire. And that's like within 1.5 minutes of the movie starting. You're just like, oh, fuck. This movie just goes for it full blast the whole time, I feel like.
Oh yeah, it hits the ground running. It is. I picked it because when I saw it last year, I was like, "Oh, this is instantly going in spooky season rotation." Like specifically only gonna be watching this movie in September or October. There's fucking jack-o'-lanterns everywhere. You got the pollen coming off the corn. It's a full moon. It's Halloween. You got kids in makeshift masks with weapons and stuff. Like this is. And a fucking pumpkin monster guy. This is peak spooky season. And David Slade, to kind of set the table a sec, I find a very fascinating director. He's had a very interesting career trajectory. If you guys don't know who David Slade is, he got his start in music videos, doing stuff for like Muse, System of a Down, Aphex Twin, Stone Temple Pilots, like late 90s, early 2000s. Does his first movie, Hard Candy, in 2007, which I know you guys have talked about. So he like does that, and then followed by two very different vampire movies. He does 30 Days of Night, back to back with the Twilight Saga Eclipse, my favorite of the Twilight Saga.
That's when the big money comes calling. You just say yes.
Hey, and you know what? And he didn't phone it in either. He bought into the corny vibe of that series, and he had fun with it, And then he like takes a break from movies for a while. He starts doing some TV. He's done like multiple episodes of Hannibal. He did the first 3 episodes of American Gods, which is like a nice, like almost movie within itself. And then he comes back around. He does some Black Mirror stuff. He does 1 episode, and then he does that interactive movie Bandersnatch, which I still haven't watched yet.
Yeah, that was not quite my shit. I was like, I feel like Black Mirror's missing the like fact that this feels like a start of a Black Mirror episode, and I don't want to get caught in a trap. It gave me bad vibes. I dodged Bandersnatch completely.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a choose your own adventure fan, so I'm still intrigued to check it out. But again, he's just had a very fascinating career. And then this movie was supposed to come out in 2021, then got delayed to 2022, and then didn't come out digitally without like any fanfare. There was no rollout for it. There was no press. There was no nothing. It just was dumped onto not even any of like the streaming sites into last year. It was just you had to just rent it, like via whatever. But like it wasn't even like propped up by like a streaming service or anything, which I find shocking because like Hulu does.
It's fucking wild that this movie just kind of came. It reminds me a very similar fate befell The Empty Man.
Yeah,
when that movie came out, where it's just like, what is this like $150 like quasi Lovecraftian, like also like late Wes Craven teenage horror? Like why did this just fall through the cracks? And it's just one of those weird things. And this one even was a very popular book.
Yes.
That all the reading circles I'm in, people are like, oh, you got to check out this Dark Harvest book. It's fucking great. And so that's the only way that I had any idea that I'd be interested in this movie. You're just scrolling the VOD. And you're like, oh, that's that fucking book everyone told me about. I'll watch the movie and be lazy instead. And man, I didn't know David Slade was attached. Nothing, right? I just found this kind of on a whim. And man, I fucking love this movie. I'm also a sucker for teenage melodrama shows.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a section of this movie that I think some people would argue is not the best, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is our little guy, Bud, kind of running around doing the greaser thing. He's kind of doing too much, right? Like the kid who now lives in the nice part of town but wants to still have street cred. And I wouldn't say that his performance really is selling that chunk of the movie super well for me. Which is weird because a lot of the other kid actors are, right? Like his best friend who's blonde, who's like, I'd pick you over your bro any day. And I was like, oh, that's fucking sweet. And the girl working the candy, I was like, oh, I love her. But he's kind of a little rough around the edges. But I fucking love teen melodrama.
I buy into Richie. I buy into Richie. I buy into, this movie just has so many subgenres that I love. It leans into kind of that death games, kind
Yes.
of humans hunting, kind of like almost a most dangerous game, but not quite. But like still kind of in that realm where they have these rules. It's this yearly ritual that people have to do. It's like it's literally set up like battle royale.
It's like a weird folk horror like setting.
Yeah. It's like it's a folk horror. They never say where this town is. I tried to pinpoint it by because I was looking at maps, and so I'm thinking corn, and then they call soda. They call it pop. So I had to pull up one of those maps that says soda versus pop. And so I narrowed this down that this is either in Kansas or Nebraska, but it never says.
See, I thought that because I'm in Indiana. In Indiana Hoosiers, we are very famous for corn, right? Our shitty amusement park, Indiana Beach, famously with the crow that there's more than corn in Indiana at Indiana Beach. It's like this famous thing here, right? We're like the corn state. So I fucking love anything in a cornfield. And we also call it pop. But again, I also thought I was getting big Nebraska vibes, so I'm with you on that.
Yeah, they're a little bit twangier in this 60s.
Yeah, that's right.
In this like 60s like bubble.
Well, yeah, so I was like,
type
is this
of
like
town.
a country thing or a 50s thing?
The car is they said this is the 64 new model, so this takes place early 60s.
The 64, yeah.
And it's in this like kind of weird like kind of time capsule-y bubble, because even though like yes it has all the 60s imagery, it still feels very contemporary. And maybe that's just by the way that David Slade shoots things. It's a very interesting like vibe to it. It's like almost like kind of like a Pleasantville type of effect.
It's almost like they're all already in their Halloween costume when the movie starts 5 days before Halloween. Because I was with you. I never bought the like time period piece of it, but it also didn't distract me from the movie, because I'm with you. I love the opening of the movie. Just fucking rips right in the field. And we got this, jock in the classic kind of like Archie varsity jacket. And he's fucking braining this monster, and they're eating his fucking guts that are full of candy. And I was just like, you could pretty much do anything now for the next like 30, 40
right?
minutes, and I'm fucking in. I
Like,
love this shit.
You're
And
eating
they went a
candy
house
guts,
and a car, and,
yeah.
he fucking drives off.
Mm-hmm.
I love actually the reset, though, where they kind of begin to explain the ritual, right? So it's this fucking dipshit cop, and he's yelling at all these kids like, you have to do this, otherwise this horrifying plague will beset the town. We'll lose everything. Richie's feeling bad because he gets a waiver, right? Everyone else is like, we have to be conscripted. You get a waiver because your brother won. But he wants to prove himself. His parents are bizarre. The kids are all talking about different conspiracies. And I was like, that scene in the gym, I was like, I am such a fucking sucker for those moments. I love the world building.
The first 15-20 minutes of this world building is done super well. I was just listening to your guys' Challengers episode before logging on, and I know you guys were talking about like kind of the non-sequential storytelling, or how you're like usually not a fan of like callbacky stuff. I like that with this, since it is a yearly ritual, we start with the end of the previous run, and then we go forward.
Excellent.
So I think
that's fucking clever.
I think that's a very nice way to set the table, drop you in, and be like, okay, this is a regular thing. Everyone in this town knows about it. Like, this is not like some isolated incident. And then that gym scene is, it feels very battle royale, like when they're sitting in the classroom and he's explaining, you know, like I like that he just simply explains the rules to us, except that this guy, Officer Ricks, is wild.
Just the fucking worst.
This guy, Luke Kirby, his performance, he is doing something so strange throughout this movie, and I love it. And the setup for it, and the characters, and the teen melodrama, this all feels very much like a send up to Stephen King. Like this is that Midwest Stephen King teen horror, like specifically where you are having these like interpersonal stuff with the characters on top of like, oh yeah, by the way, there's this giant pumpkin monster they have to hunt every year. You know, it's like, that's just like, oh yeah, by the way, you know,
that's a toss in.
And
well,
so
it's great. I love, because Stephen King, I think that's the thing he does best. Right? I was watching a documentary about him, and they talked about how it was a folk horror documentary on Shudder, and they talked about one of the fears that a lot of this talks about. Like Stephen King says it best, is how white people who fucking just came and took everything here, how much we now have that fear built into our culture because we did it to someone else, that someone's going to come and take our shit now. And how white people are so fucking afraid of anyone else doing that to them because they fucking, like, hey, we know that trick. And Stephen King really gets at that, like, this is the American ideal, but something is fucking rotten at the core of it, better than I think any other writer has ever really gotten to in the horror genre. And this one is, you're giving rise to this kind of like the capitalism of the town is given small fucking skinny murderous form. But meanwhile, you're watching, I think one of the things the movie does not get a lot of credit from when I'm reading reviews, and this shockingly has like a 5.5 out of 10 on IMDb. I don't think people appreciate the human psychology going on in this town, right? Like watching the parents react to their kids, right? Just the thought that these parents lock their kids in a room and starve them for 3 days so they'll be hungry, right? The poor kids have to do that too on the hopes that they can win and go to the fucking rich part. There's a lot of beautiful psychology happening between these characters and parents that I feel like people just weren't latching onto for some reason. I don't know why, because I found it fascinating myself.
I mean, again, I feel like I just don't think enough people have seen this. Like,
yes.
Like I always talk about, like, 2021 is such a like weird space for when movies were getting made because that's when this was shot. So it's like it was being shot in the early parts of like, okay, we're just filming or we're figuring out how to make movies again under COVID protocols. So like there's this patch of movies that were made in 2021 that some of them did see the light of day, some of them had to wait a few years, some of them have still never been released. So it's like 2021, that's just a cursed year. If you made a movie that year, sorry about you, unfortunately.
You imagine like how hard it is to make a movie, period, and it's just like, and pandemic.
It's a bummer because there's some really good stuff.
Brutal.
So I think just not anybody saw this because there is just so much there's so much rich themes and it asks so many questions, and I love that the movie is very like open about it. They're not trying to like dance around, the questions they're asking. Like I love how the movie starts off like with that in that opening narration, and he says a line, "You got to give something to get something back." And I thought that was very interesting on setting the mindset of this town that like if they don't, hunt this creature and make sure it doesn't get to the church by midnight on Halloween, if that doesn't happen, their crops are fucked. It's gonna like unleash this like dust storm plague that like fucked their town up for like 10 years. So they've been like on top of it or whatever. It's this like kind of perverted Americana kind of thing that they're like, okay, hey, we just got to do this one thing, and maybe it's a little fucked up, it's a little bit morbid, we got to kill a couple kids,
fucked up.
we got to torture and abuse our kids and all these things, but it's just one night. They keep saying that. They're like, all right, now that this one terrible night is done, now we can focus on everything else. And so like the idea of 364 days, 360 days, they think of, everything is normal. But then for that 1 week when they are prepping and having to do this whole thing, that's when, they descend into this fucking hellscape of a town. And it, it's very, very much similar to the Purge vibes for sure.
Yeah.
Which I'm a big fan of that franchise.
Would have psychological ripples every other day of the fucking year too, right? Like,
and
that would change. Like this guy's life. So Richie's life, he moves from the fucking broke ass side of town. I think the west side is the rich side and the east side is the old town, right?
Yeah.
And so they move on up. His parents are acting fucking strange. There's really this kind of beautiful, like the parents are a great encapsulation of this kind of deal with the devil, right? When they are walking up with their son and he won, they're so fucking stoked, right? They're carrying him out of town like he won. And the parents are stoked. And then by the time we see them, something's clearly wrong. And there's this great kind of underlying theme of when you finally get to that next economic level and you realize like, oh, this is always done on the backs of other people. Like this isn't just like oh, look what I did. I earned this. You're like, no, you got to fucking keep other people down. You got to chew other people up to keep your seat at the table. And you watch this mom and dad they completely fucking unravel by the end of the movie. Like they're gone.
Mm-hmm.
Richie it seems like he's just an unwanted son, right? Like he's a bad kid, right? Because he has a jacket with words on it. But really what it is they don't want to lose their only son left. right? And so I thought some of those scenes on a second viewing are so much better than just kind of breezing through it the first time.
Yeah, I did key in on the parents more on this rewatch for sure. Which I mean, again, like the caliber of talent behind this movie. You got Jeremy Davies, who is his performance in Ravenous is one of my favorite things ever. He's so fun in that. But then and then Elizabeth Reeser, like a low-key scream queen, she's been in a ton of different genre things. Are both really great. And again, it brings up so many questions because there's a line that's repeated by a lot of the adult characters. We gotta do this, the same as it always is. It's the same as it always is. We gotta do it the same as so there's this like idea of
passing the blame, right? Well,
yes.
Other people have done this for hundreds of years, so it's all right that like I'm sacrificing my fucking children.
Exactly, and like and the questions of again like. The adults, like, yes, they are like kind of emotionally tortured in this, but then at the same time, like I was like, by the time I got to the end of this movie, I was like, so I can think of a lot of scenarios here to where why aren't the adults just making the sacrifice themselves? Like nothing in the legend says that it has to be the teen boy.
Why does it have to be?
Why does it have to be the kid? Like it doesn't make sense as to like why wouldn't it be the dads?
Yeah. That's why young poor kids fight wars, right?
Exactly.
And old rich men send them off to war. But
exactly.
I mean, it's even something like the guy. It's like, so they finally get the nice house and the Cadillac and whatever. And it's like, well, you got to be ready to shoot your son in monstrous form or take out your new son or whatever, because that's what it fucking takes, man. That's how it's always been done. That's the sacrifice.
Or you take out yourself,
he's not like home doing what he should be doing, and his wife fucking murders herself brutally with the wine glass.
Mm-hmm.
And it's this constant, this one more than any does not take a subtle hand in that like kind of Faust story, right? That when you fucking deal with the devil, you always fucking lose.
Well, and
you can never ever win.
And they do it under this guise though, because they're saying like, okay, we're doing this for the benefit of everyone, benefit for the town, for the benefit of our future. But no, it's not for the benefit of your future because you're risking your future by doing this ceremony rather than, again, why wouldn't the dads of the town rally up to go do it? Or why don't you just, instead of like trying to keep certain things a secret, why don't you let everyone in on everything?
Fucking tell them.
And then,
tell them.
and then one night a year, everyone in the town hunt Sawtooth Jack and do it together as a town. Why does it have to be this whole?
That your friend Richie's a monster, but it's only one of you a year. Here's another thing: like, why don't they just
figure out a tribute system?
Why do they just set these kids feral to run around the town? Like one of the scenes, there's just so many moments where you're like
literally build a wall.
This is not being done right. Yeah, like just make a fucking literal like 300 formation in front of the church. And just wait.
But again, this isn't like us like poking holes at the mythology of the movie. It's meant to be like this is such a flawed system, and the kids in this movie are trying to call that out. Like that's what Richie and Kelly are doing. Like Richie not having to do this, but feeling this urge that he does have to. Starts off as like a personal ego thing, as being a 17-year-old boy, but it becomes something bigger once he kind of realizes what is actually happening and like what he needs to expose, the many flaws in this system that they've come up with. Like it's very ridiculous as to the way that they're going about this. But I love the questions that it asks about it, and again because I want to get more into like the actual run itself for a minute. Because I think it is, again, like as a fan of death game scenarios and things, I think this is such a fun setup, even though, again, it does have flaws in it. Like, if you're going to starve them for 3 days, they're not going to have any energy to properly chase them. Like, I get what they're doing psychologically.
I was like, you think they'd be carb loading.
Yeah, it's like, I get what they're doing psychologically, but it's like, no, why wouldn't you guys be, like, training up these kids and be like, all right, if you know you're doing the run, like, here's 2-week boot camp or whatever. And like beef up or whatever.
Yeah, every kid in that town should be a fucking unit.
Mm-hmm. But it's a
They
but
should have the best football team in the world.
But again, I like the imagery of it all. Like when they're like this montage of these kids like going crazy in their rooms and
Oh,
like,
I love
you know,
that
they
part.
because like, you know, when they're not fair or like before this, you know, a lot of kids are excited. They're, you know, because again, there's incentive for this and they're, you know, puffing their chests and, you know, having little, you know, dick measuring contests and everything about this whole thing. But then once they're in the room and things are going crazy, you see certain kids are like, no, I don't want to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And just like, you know, and then when they're running around, it's like certain kids are like trying to be proactive and go do it. Certain kids are just fucking looting stores. Certain kids are hiding in shelters and, you know, just like waiting it out. So I thought this
See,
this whole
that's the
scenario of
one
the
that
run I thought
fucking
is
ripped
like
my
really
heart out,
cool.
right? Because there's that poor kid. I can't remember the character's name, but he runs home and he's just like, "Mommy, don't make me do
Oh,
it."
it's
He
Bud, yeah.
saw Sawtooth Jack when he was little, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, "Please, Mommy, don't make me do it. Let me come in." And his parents fucking push him back out the door. And she's like, "You have to. Like, go get that money for us, right?" And he's just like, "Mommy." And they closed the door on him. I was like, that alone is fucking devastating. Now there's a little kid in the window like, "Sawtooth Jack's behind you." And he runs to that shelter, and it's the little nerd who's like, "They can't make me kill anything, right?"
Mm-hmm.
And he opens the door, and he's like, "Hey, do you have the money?" And he's like, "Well, I don't have any money. Let me in." It's like, "No, you got to have the money." And I was like, even the pacifist nice person
It's
is turning, because
still
that bunker was fucking full, dude. He made a bank that night.
mm-hmm.
And it's like, so even the decent people are shown to have these scumbag capitalist tendencies, right?
Yep.
But then what happens? The one kid who really shows altruism, he's like, "Hey, man, we should save that guy." He opens the door. Sawtooth Jack rips the kid's head off. And that beautiful slow motion of him descending into the bunker and just like a blood cannon sends out just like a swimming pool worth of innocent nerd blood.
I
I
mean,
fucking love that bit.
I rewound this scene and watched it like 5 times last night because
Oh,
it's so fucking metal. Like the reveal, like this is like our like true like first like up close look at Sawtooth Jack because like they did a really good job throughout the movie of like him being there, but you see good glimpses, but like you never really get to, you know. But like this scene is like the first time you are seeing him in frame for like a good amount of time. They kind of like switch back and forth between like a digital and like a practical augmented by digital. He mainly looks good. There's like a couple shots where he looks a little wonky, but for the most part, Sawtooth Jack looks amazing. This fucking the head open rip similar to Hatchet. That's looked really great, but then just this, him walk in. I love him. He just walks in. You don't see what he's doing or anything, and then this just geyser of blood.
It's just like an anime cartoon amount of blood. Just
man,
it's fucking rad, man. But that's because it harkens back. One of my easy top 10, if not top 5 favorite horror movies ever is Pumpkinhead.
Yes, me too.
Right. Which, by the way, this week I just had to explain to my wife that Pumpkinhead doesn't actually have a pumpkin for a head. Even though she's seen that movie like 5 fucking times. Neither here nor there. But it just, that monster got me in that mode, right? And I thought the delivery was good, right? It'll never be as cool when it's digital like that. But I thought they utilized the monster really well. And then we get a very beautiful kind of Pumpkinhead reveal at the end. That the monster is the winner of the previous year, right? That they're great prize. And the black road with no stop signs. Well, there's no stop signs because it leads directly into the grave. So I thought there was some really beautiful stuff with Sawtooth Jack that I wasn't really expecting, because you're watching these scenes that you expect, right? Like in a battle royale style movie. Like this one kid's like, "I'm going to win the run, and who doubts it?" And this kid in a pig mask just fucking chops his head in half. You're like, "Oh, fuck, that's awesome." Or the butcher who is trying to defend the business he's built. And because they starved him, they fucking throw a brick at his face and just maim and mangle the butcher, right? Because he was part of the ruling class, but not high enough, I guess, that they sent business. So you're seeing a lot of these scenes where you're like, yeah, that's just cool violence. I get it. It has these nice subtextual beats. I was blown away by the finale with Sawtooth Jack, where Richie decides, I'm going to actually fucking help him, right? Because Richie uncovers via belt buckle that he knows it's his brother, right? And he knows his mom wrote the letters and this and that. I was fucking blown away rewatching it. How much I loved the choices they were making in that moment, particularly.
Yeah, so I haven't read the book, but I downloaded the audiobook. I'm gonna listen to it. It's very short. And And apparently, from what I've just read from like the kind of side by side synopsis, the movie ending is a smidge different. It's more like kind of actually like what happens after that moment is slightly different than what happens in the book. But yeah, I mean, I think Sawtooth Jack. I mean, yeah, shout out Pumpkinhead because that movie fucking rules. I love it to pieces. Gonna have to watch it sometime in the next week because I watch that one every September, October as well. And yeah, just like kind of the kind of tragic mythology where it's like, yes, this is a vicious monster that is out killing people. Like, we do see this. Like, it's, not to be confused. Sawtooth Jack is fucking crazy, with these, like, fire powers and just shreds people and shit.
Dude, when he goes back to his old room and just raw and fucking lights the house up. And then we cut to the street of the people doing the run, and there's just, like, this fireball in the background.
Sick,
I was
nasty.
like, that is fucking incredible filmmaking. I fucking love that bit.
And then so then once you like kind of uncover the truth and everything, which happens at about like the 50-minute mark. I for some reason whenever I rewatched it, I thought it didn't happen until a little bit later. But it's like, no, Richie does catch on in like a pretty good amount of time.
I do want to ask you about this. What you made of this moment? It's so weird when he comes out with like not Crispin Glover from that mansion. And it's like, what the fuck? That dude just has Sawtooth Jack in the middle of the run in his mansion, and he comes walking out like it's a loading room from the Matrix. And he's like, get on out of here. And he sends him away, and Sawtooth Jack's just... I was like, what the fuck is Sawtooth... What is that rich guy doing with Sawtooth Jack in his house?
I have no idea. That is one of the mysteries I still do have.
Yeah, that's what I was like.
I mean, it's...
I don't know if that's my... Because the belt buckle reveal, I'm like, that's great.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if we need, like... Was he having dinner in there? Like,
so it's like, because it's like the Sawtooth Jack is still aware, like, as the previous winning person, sort of. Like, they are still kind of aware of who they are, but at the same time aren't. So I feel like that's maybe the way that like he reacts to certain people, because like Sawtooth Jack does have a moment that he could have killed Richie at one point, but doesn't. So it's like, and then like at the end of the movie too, when, the reactions he has, like we can tell that this person that, the previous run winner is still in there somewhat, but not so much. So I don't know, maybe Richie, was that like was it the baseball coach? Because if that's the case, maybe that's the reason he was in his house and didn't kill him. Because like Richie was, or because Jim was like good at baseball or whatever.
I didn't know. I was like, were they having a Harvest Guild orgy or something? Like, I felt like there was a cool scene in there that we missed. I felt a little cheated.
You wanted to see Sawtooth Jack sitting at a dinner table?
I was like, what if he's like made to do a dance on the table and they're having like a society moment around the table? I was like, something cool had to happen.
There's something, because I mean, we see that certain member, again, like you can kind of figure out who of the adults are a part of, like, the quote unquote Harvest Guild, because like certain, obviously Officer Ricks is a part of it because he is involved in it. I guess like
it does feel like they need more police involved in it. Ricks is getting his shit rocked constantly in this movie.
Yeah, their contingency plan. I love how the contingency plan is like, okay, well, if the feral kids can't do it, then the dad has to be the one to do it. And it's like, and then if he can't do it, then I guess I gotta do it. And it's like, and yeah, again, very flawed system y'all got here. But like there is certain adults that do seem to know a little bit more than other ones and seem to be more involved. So yeah, I don't know. There's some sort of angle of control that someone had Sawtooth Jack in their house without
silencing the youth, right? Like silencing the youth and turning them into good minions of what the older people want. That I guess maybe the system explains away some of that. They want these kids bought in because those kids have to have kids that then will be sacrificed to Sawtooth Jack down the road, maybe. But yeah, it is one of those, you're like, I feel like you guys are making this way harder. And also, just like Rick's is like, hey, you win this year, here's a gun. I was like, and all the other kids are just going to be like, that's cool. Like, what the fuck? I'd be like, this is fucking rigged. This is insane. But that, like, the system's not fair, ever. Like,
no,
we all know that,
I mean...
apparently.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's like you have like people like the farmer making moves and such, and like.
Can we pause right here? I'd like to talk about this fucking warlock. What the fuck? The farmer is like the coolest thing in the movie that just maybe he's only cool because he's in it for like a brief moment. He's a literal fucking warlock out there just making fucking zombie monsters. Like, how did
Yeah.
he learn to do that? We don't address it at all. It's just this cool, quiet, like, yeah, I reckon. And it's like, that's all he does the whole movie.
So yeah, the because I was like, is he the one that has the magic that keeps this going, or is he just another cog in the system and he is just again playing his part? But or has he been the one that's been around doing it this whole time? I don't know. I kind of like to imagine that because he is present as a farmer. This whole ritual is for their prize crops. So he's some sort of farmer deity, some sort of farmer.
Dude,
farmer
I thought that
demon,
was so badass.
and because like he's the one that like like digs up the body, stuffs it up, puts it on the thing. I love like kind of all the steps again, very reminiscent of the swamp hag from Pumpkinhead. She's
See, a
really
lot of warlocks, they descend into flamboyance and like showmanship, right?
He's still
like
just a
Lord of
guy
Illusion.
with a truck.
There aren't a lot of like Carhartt warlocks that are just like, hey, someone's got to do it.
Like,
I like that fucking addition.
He's a warlock. He's a warlock whose magic wand is a shovel. Like the blue collar warlock that the representation we've been missing in horror is. He's because. But then he pisses me off at the end
real
because
magic's a hard day's work. It's like, well, all right, dude, thanks.
Yeah, so I mean, not to skip to like the end, but he pisses me off at the end, because so like after Richie did, he was gonna help get his brother Sawtooth Jack to the church, which he does, but people are shooting him, so he ends up having to shoot his brother Sawtooth Jack for him. So they're like, okay, so we're gonna keep it going as we were gonna do, because Richie's plan was like, well, if we get him to the church, then there's not gonna be any winner and there won't be a sacrifice. And he was willing to sacrifice the town to do it because his mom was dead already. His dad sucks. So he said, fuck it. So I got it. So like it did like kind of, it sucked that he did like still end up going through with it to keep it going. I don't know if that's different from the book ending possibly. Because I
was a little torn on that moment too, because I thought it was kind of beautiful the way the other jock is like freezing. He's kind of deferring to this kid who he seems to have hated. Yeah. And then he does the, puts the gun to his own pumpkin face. That felt like an odd moment.
Because why wouldn't you be like, no, like your brother's trying to fucking, like change shit, like fucking you're on the steps.
You're clearly already in torment. Let me drag your ass across the finish line.
Exactly. Yes. And so right? And again, like I don't know if this is again bungled release stuff, because I feel like they left it open at the end for a sequel if this was going to be a hit, but then it didn't end up doing anything. They didn't release it. So it's like, again, I don't know if that's a difference. If otherwise this was just going to be a standalone, then like it would have ended, there on the church steps,
Right.
So then we do have this like kind of add-on scene to like see how it's going to keep on going. We're going to see if Richie can still outrun the cops. He can't, which I don't like, bro, drive better. I don't know. Like,
you got the brand new, like hottest ride, dude. Fucking floor that shit.
Yeah. So the movie goes for like more of a
things
fuck
that are
you.
not fully satisfying about the ending. I did love the scene where they go to the harvest ball again, and he's just out there dancing with his girl, and he kisses his girl, and you watch all the members in the guild just look at him with fucking hatred and revulsion, and it's like, this kid just saved your way of life, sacrificed his own brother and family to your fucking little twisted game, but those old fucking hatreds are still there, right?
Yeah. You still can't take that he's kissing a black girl, which, by the way...
the cop even is like hinting at like, hey, your dad tried to get out of here and I probably murdered him.
Yo.
And you're just like, Jesus Christ.
Fucking crazy. Shout out Kelly. I think she is a very fascinating character to have in this. And, I think they could have... I'm glad that it wasn't as the focus of, hey, yes, she is obviously the only black gal in this town, and like, let's, shit on her a bunch. I'm glad that wasn't the focus. It was there, obviously. It had its elements just to like kind of point another thing. But I'm glad it like wasn't like any like sort of focus on that kind of angle. But it like, was, still there for, kind
Yeah.
of the themes that they're going for. And then she's the one that
It
ends up
showed a
getting away.
confidence, right? That they're like, we're smart enough to know what it would have been like for someone like her in this time in that town. And she gives such a mature performance that really grounds a lot of this weird teenage boy energy.
Oh, I know, because
she was fucking wonderful in this movie.
Yeah, she's so fun opposite Richie, like trying to like posture as the cool kid and everything, and she like lets him at certain
like
points.
Shakespeare in the part James Dean, yeah.
I like that she just like lets him sometimes be like, yeah, okay, yeah, whatever you say, but then but other times like kind of call him out. But I'm glad that like yes, like David Slade was able to like take this character and like have it to where it makes sense, but also not fall into the trappings of how this character would have been treated in, say, a movie that came out in the early 2000s or something like that. Things could have been a lot worse. And I'm glad, hey, she gets away with a rear projection drive away and everything. Love that for her. I do
love a rear. What did you? I feel like some audiences will not love that part because she didn't go in the field and help save Richie. I was kind of like, hey, man, sometimes you got to get yours. Like, this town is not helping anyone out.
Hey, it's real. It's realistic because, like, yeah, they have their romance and everything, but at the same time, hey, I just met you last week. Like, if he told me to stay down in the car and waiting for everything to die down, then that's what I'm doing. Sorry, I'm gonna go. Like, what was she gonna do to help him in that situation?
She gonna fight the old farmer warlock? No way.
Exactly. Like, there was nothing that she was gonna be able to do. So I'm happy that she got to drive away into the sunset.
That's what I thought. And I was like, at some point, you're sitting in the car and you probably just stop and unpack all of the horse shit you've seen that night.
See,
because it becomes a little fucking overwhelming to get out and go Last Action Hero.
See, that's my thing too. Like, I needed a win for somebody, and I'm glad at least she got a win. Because that is my kind of thing with the end is, yeah, they're kind of going for this fuck you ending where it's like, nope, Richie is still gonna, get thrown into the grave. He's still gonna become Sawtooth Jack. Because it's like, one, if the farmer wasn't such a dick, he would have just thrown Officer Rick's body in the fucking pit rather than it be Richie. It didn't have to be Richie. That would have been more poetic if it was Officer Rick.
Never thought of that. Why didn't they just use fucking Officer Dipshit?
Because again, it's not about preserving the youth and the kids like they say it. So it's like, no, like the adults are still looking out for themselves. So it's like they're going for this like extra fuck you ending, and then they're supposed to like at the end, the dad finally nuts up and kills the farmer warlock and then brings him down and is like, all right, you're going to go burn down this town. But it's like, yeah, we could have already did that ending. So why would they do this like extra tacked on?
Felt very and also
it's very
like,
weird.
I doubt the town's just letting him be a weird fucking like survivalist for a year, like getting ready to do this.
So I don't know.
Like,
so it's
once he starts swinging on people and pointing shotguns, like I'm guessing his time is done in the town.
Again, like if they were gonna go for a sequel, what was it gonna be? It was gonna be Sawtooth Jack, Richie, and his dad going around and killing people in town. Like I don't know. So it's like I don't get what they were going for. It's like if you were gonna do all that, then like you just should have ended it with it. I don't know. The ending does kind of fumble the bag a smidge.
The cycle of fucking power and capitalism can't be defeated. But I'm with you. I'm like, if you're gonna do that, do it in the fucking movie.
Yeah,
not this like weird scene that it's like, well, what's different this year? Like, what's gonna change now?
Exactly. So it's like I don't know. So it's like I don't know if it was. Again, if they had plans to try and do another one or something, or if it was just them wanting to do something decidedly different from the book, I'm not sure because I do love how like Sawtooth Jack does become this like more sympathetic monster once you learn everything, and like I'm team Sawtooth Jack, like yes, justice for Sawtooth Jack,
those
like
fucking
kill whoever you gotta kill, and like unfortunately if it does have to be these teenagers, hey, like you were one of them, so at that point like whatever. Like, so I'm all for it, I don't know. I guess there's a part of me that did want just to see the fucking town burn at the end of this movie. Like, as much as I love a good fuck you ending, like I do love that. I love a good bleak ending. This isn't the movie I wanted that for, because by the end, I had been so endeared to the kids and their plight in this movie, and then to Sawtooth Jack, I wanted to see the town burn. So like that's I guess where the ending kind of lets me down a little bit.
Yeah, it's tough too because again, like this reminds me actually of this series I've been reading that's pretty good, Clown in a Cornfield, right? It's not the exact same as this, but like it definitely has those vibes. And that one has a great second book because they take the like trauma of the first one and extrapolate it in this really interesting way. And this one, for me, in the sequel, I don't want to really see Sawtooth, Richie, and his dad going through town. I want to go through that town because one thing we don't see in the opening run is how much carnage actually happens. We see a kid get burned up, right?
Mm-hmm.
The morning after this movie happens, you're like 20, 30 parents aren't having a kid come home and they're not getting a check in a Cadillac, and the butcher's wife and kids are now orphaned.
Yeah.
You're like, there's a lot of like fucking serious trauma that's going to be spread to everyone that's not going to have the comfort of the giant check and house on the west side and the Cadillac. That's where I want to see, like, what happened the year after where all these kids are like, hey, man, all these fucking people died and we didn't get shit for it. This plan fucking sucks. Like, I want to see the people rise up, right? That's the sequel I'd like to see.
Yeah, and it's like same here, because it's like that's like I guess kind of something I would have liked to have seen more in this one, because I did see in like one difference from the book is like that more kids get in on trying to help Sawtooth Jack. Like it's not just Richie and Kelly that like uncover it. Like more kids find out in the book and help Sawtooth Jack get to the church or whatever.
Right.
So I kind of did want to see a little bit more of that. But I guess, like you said, like that, I guess would be like now the morning after this, how many of the kids did realize what was actually going on? Because they still did the ceremony and the dance and everything like usual. And everything does end up shaking out like usual. Officer Ricks, catches Richie on his way out. And so like, how many kids, in that moment, like when the moment on the stairs was happening, like I guess the next movie would have been focused on Riley, I guess. The bully kid
out in the field with the flashlight. Like, have you seen my kid? It's like, no, 20 of them are in the fucking bunker, dude.
Because like
Ricks even says that in the gym. He's like, for certain, one of your classmates is gonna die. And you're like, we cleared that by a lot.
A
lot. How about the pig face mask kid who splits his friend's head open, or his classmate's head open, just because he challenged him? And then he has finally like a protein bar, and he wakes up the next morning like, oh, dude, I murdered a guy with a hatchet. Like, what happens to that kid's life?
Right. What happens after you're drinking a Pedialyte the next day, and you're like, oh shit, I'm sorry, I was out of my mind yesterday. That was not me. They
just do that Ron Burgundy. That got out of control fast.
I mean, like, even though the butcher does, he gets like bricked in the face. I don't know if they do kill him, but like at one point he blasts one of the kids himself. So he kills a kid.
2 or 3 kids.
So
he's like blowing fucking arms off.
So if the kids didn't kill him, was he gonna be immune the next day? Like, or was he gonna get arrested? So it's like,
that's right.
The aftermath
they're
of
out
these.
Of control. It's like, well, we made them that way. They're doing a civic duty. You don't get to shoot them.
Yeah. So
there's a lot of. I think that's the thing, that the sequel leads to a lot of interesting unpacking of the shit we saw in this one.
Yeah, which is again, it's a bummer because
to your point, I don't know if that's the kind of movie this is.
I feel like I don't know if they were setting up a sequel. I feel like they were kind of more, I guess, just going for an ultimate, like, fuck you, like, just kind of a middle finger type of ending, which, again, I like with a lot of movies. Just like, I guess I wanted a little bit more of a triumph in this one from it. And again, just who knows if that was due to productions or whatever.
Also, if you're going to do that ending, don't immediately invalidate it. Right after the ending.
Exactly. Exactly.
That's pretty cowardly.
I've been because again, I'm a big fan of the Purge movie series. I haven't gotten to watch the TV series, but apparently I think in season 1 it's structured where it's like lead up and then the purge happens in like episode 6, and then like the rest of the episodes afterwards you do get to see aftermath.
When I first got to LA, I was a production assistant for this producer, and I would read a lot of the scripts and do notes. And that was one of the only scripts I was like, we have to make this movie. I got this script called The Release. And it was the very first version of The Purge before it got bought and changed. So it's called The Release, and it took place in an English, like, countryside village, right? Where, like, these two dads were fighting over, like, where their lawns ended. And then the Purge happens, and they're fucking each other up. Like, so it's more of, like, a Straw Dogsy small, like, town. Like, the whole country didn't do it. Just this one, like, kind of old village had this one night of anarchy. But I remember reading that script and being like, this is the greatest idea for a movie ever. And I don't know how, like, the machinations happened, but then all of a sudden I was at the theater seeing The Purge, and I was like, holy fuck, I remember that.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's fucking brilliant idea, dude.
Yeah.
I wish I still had that. I might still have it lying around somewhere. I'll see if I can find that.
Oh yeah, I mean, if you do, send that over. I mean,
For sure, dude.
because I do think like I think the Purge conceit is one of the most best conceits of a like as far as premise goes. You know, you can argue how the execution ends up turning out, but the premise of it. So like movies like this always do intrigue me. My double feature with this last night was I watched the new Caitlin Cronenberg movie Humane. Which is
Okay.
David's got another kid making movies too. And it's like kind of like a situation where every country like they've gotten to this like overpopulation and global warming apex, and every country has to reduce their population by 20% by some means, whatever means that is. So it's like there's this like euthanasia program that people can like enlist in and get paid for. Or, well, I mean, they don't get paid. Their family gets paid if they volunteer to get killed.
I can see how this would play with that.
So, yeah, so it was a interesting little double feature because that turns into, like, this family inside a house, like, you know, pinning themselves against each other and for this whole thing. So it made for a interesting double feature because I like
you make a good point. This walks between
asked.
so many subgenres. You could find hundreds of perfect pairings with this movie.
Yeah, seriously. Again, it's kind of like one of my favorite subgenres. We did a whole month, I think it was last summer, where we did like a whole Death Games thing for like when Saw 10 was coming out. Like stuff like Would You Rather is a really good one that I love, where you're like kind of having these like moral choices and, you know, things and prizes and, you know, and just like things that raise these like kind of human questions. Because yes, there is like a fantastical element of this, you know, jack-o'-lantern creature running around, but at the same time, like the more interesting, you know, moral questions come from the interactions from the characters in this, and like, you know, again, like incentivizing these kids, you know, to do this, incentivizing the families and having to keep things under wraps and all the things I just find, you know, so fascinating in this. And it's just it's a interesting blend of subgenres, but then at the same time, you can read into all these class structure things and stuff like that, or you can just watch a really fun fucking, you know, spooky season movie where fucking feral kids are running around hitting each other with crowbars and fucking, you know, like shit like that.
Yeah, dressed as the Three Stooges and shit. And you're like, all right, yeah, I'm into that.
Yeah, I'm a sucker for costume ganged stuff. You got a little bit of the Warriors in here with that as well. I mean, there's just so many little fun pieces going on. I mean, specifically the first like 40 minutes of this movie fucking rule. Like, yes, I know some people might get a little bored or like feel a little disinterested for that, like 20-25 minutes where it is just all the melodrama, where, you know, hanging out with Richie's benzo mom, and then him like uncovering the truth and everything. It is an odd little stretch in there, and I don't think it's bad. I think it's just like when this movie just starts off so fast and has such a propulsive energy to it. It just feels weird.
It crescendos many times.
Right? Yeah. So it feels weird when you hit the soap opera stretch, but it's still good because you need that to inform the emotion.
And that stretch gets way better on multiple viewings.
Yes, and it enhances the emotion of that, you know, that church scene and everything. Because without the melodrama section, then that scene isn't like as, you know, big and powerful and raw as it is. So you still need that, but I get where some people just kind of have a little hang up with the structure of this, but that the first half of this movie is like near perfect spooky season bullshit for me, and I love it.
I mean, I love the like Halloween night wild ride. And this movie, again, for me, maybe I'm just lucky I had no context for this movie, but I was like, if I just turned this on a whim, like I don't know where this movie would have let me down. Like this movie just
not
fucking
at all.
rips. The kills are brutal. The monster's awesome. The acting's pretty good. And one thing David Slade does is he shoots dark beauty so fucking well. And to your point, that shot, and because again, I grew up in cornfields. I detasseled, right, which is like a farm kid country job. That like the fucking, you know, whatever it is, the pollens and the fucking strands floating through the like spotlights and shit. fucking beautiful. Like, he shoots a beautiful fucking movie, David Slade.
Gorgeous. I mean, yeah, I know, again, I feel like I see some people that like complained about this feeling like a music video, and it's like, well, that's what he fucking does. All right. That's what, I appreciate.
There's also like an 8-foot tall pumpkin monster running around. I'm not really screaming for realism.
Yeah, I'm really into the style of this. It is a gorgeous movie. For sure, like so many great imagery, just like the shots of like the kids walking with their weapons and masks on in the moonlight, and it's like, this is so good. This is like a great example of like when kind of we're kind of in an era where people are complaining that movies are too dark right now, and which, yes, I will say yes, but also people just don't know how to shoot the dark. And like you said, like this movie, primarily at night, you can see everything. Everything looks great.
Go watch 30 Days of Night. That's literally an
everything looks
movie,
great.
And it's fucking gorgeous.
So it is possible to do. I think David Slade is just an underappreciated director as far as what he's done in the genre world, and having a very distinct voice in what he does.
I agree.
I think he's really great. I still haven't watched Hannibal yet, but I'm gonna. One day I'm gonna. Maybe this will be the time I do it.
Beautiful creation. I don't know that I love the story throughout, but like, fucking hell, man, the acting and like the shots in that show are stunning. You're gonna love that.
Hell yeah.
That's it for Dark Harvest. Thanks for joining us again. 3, the lucky number 3. Do you want to tell the people one more time where they can find all your stuff?
Oh, thank you so much for having me once again. Love the Mega Movie Marathon. Very excited to see what ends up on the schedule for me to listen to throughout spooky season. Stoked for you guys. I love that you guys do this. You can find me at all the usual places at _DaddyDisco, Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd, all that jazz. If you're on Letterboxd and you're doing the Hooptober challenge, make sure you're following. Let's see what those lists look like. It's like a scavenger hunt style like movie watch list.
Shit, I might have to join in on that.
Yeah, I'll send you over the thing.
I gave up
for
on the 100 new horror movies in 92 days. I did that like a year ago, and I was like, this fucking sucks. Like, I don't even like movies anymore.
Nah, I like the smaller like limited run challenges. Trying to keep one up for the whole year.
I'm in for sure.
Yeah, and so so follow us on Letterboxd and check out my show Spectre Cinema Club, hosted by me and my buddy Garrett McDowell, where we go through horror movies, discuss them, break them down by their subgenres, and kind of the way that they're made up. So for October, we're doing the Terrifier series, as well as a special Halloween episode where we're doing a Horror Icons Hunger Games episode. That's gonna be super fun. So if you're a fan of, if you're a D&D player, check that episode out. That's gonna be a really good time. And then November will be college set horror, which will be a very fun month. We drop new episodes every Tuesday on social media at Spectre Cinema, and you can also hear me co-hosting over on the Pod and Pendulum, a podcast where we go through horror movie series, one movie at a time. We do like a rotating like panel like type situation. So I did episodes on The Fly and The Fly 2 recently. So
nice, man.
If you're a fan of those,
yeah, we do that every October. I love the setup of doing all the entries of a franchise. I think it's such an interesting exercise to go through all.
Oh yeah, always.
Yeah, so I love that too. Yeah, tell Garrett he's welcome to come sometime too. I actually love that you guys are out there doing like good reviews on Letterboxd. I'm so lazy, I just do the click and star, mostly just so I can remember what the fuck I watched. I'm getting to that point in my life. But you guys have very interesting reviews on Letterboxd. I love it.
Oh, well, thank you so much. Much appreciated.
All right, guys, you know the deal. 31 days, 31 pods. I'll see you tomorrow with another amazing horror movie. Make sure you check out all of DeVaughn stuff. I'll have it in the show notes, so scroll down and find the links there. Seriously, man, I love talking movies with you. I appreciate you so much.
You as well, and one day I'll actually get to talk to Dan Dino about movies as well.
He does exist, I swear to God.
Again...